Okay, and without further ado, let me add Renaldo. Hello, Renaldo.
Hi, how are you?
Uh, yep, for those who are not familiar, it is also my first time to have met Renaldo. Sadly, only online through talking to him through a computer monitor. But yeah, it's awesome and it's an honor for you to give us this opportunity to hear about your message with regards to education. So probably to warm things up, my everyone's question probably is uh, where is Ronaldo right now?
Okay, so
If we
like,
are in the Philippines, where are you?
yeah, I'm originally from South Carolina, but I'm in London. And I've been here for 30 odd years. And I came here playing basketball and ended up being here and ended up staying.
Other another question is, I think someone asked how to be or and what's the benefit when you're an Adobe education leader.
Well, one of the things I'm fortunate enough to do is I'm fortunate enough before pre-pandemic was to fly to the States and we have a community. And I think with me, the benefit is having a community of like-minded people, having a community of people who love Premiere, love the software, love the company, and are trying to help educate the world. That to me, that's what it's about. And I think, if you can help educate one individual, I think that's what that community is about. So that's why I love it.
Yep. And how long have you been using Adobe softwares? Probably.
Probably since the early '90s, I think, probably then. But it's funny because I have just really started to sort of find my feet with everything. And I've just purchased me some cameras, a Ninja 5. So I'm ready to do this video thing for real.
We're now sharing your screen, so
Okay, so should we get started?
yep, yep.
Okay, cool. So one of the things I wanted to do first of all, I'm going to go through quite a few things today. Um, and one of the things I wanted to do is to show you where you can find some resources. And let me just do one thing before we get started here. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to go through today, you can find on my channel. So, oh, sorry, my bad, my bad, my bad. On my channel. So if you come up here, there is quite a few things. If I go to playlist, for instance, and if I go down to try stuff, down here, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to go through today is right here. Okay, so a lot of that stuff is there. But also, I think back here, if you want to find out some more about what I do, here's a site here that has a lot about what I do. I've had some courses and whatever on here. We also have some Adobe live streaming stuff where I've done some live streams around Premiere and how to do various things. So that's a resource also. And then again, if you want to see the lynda.com stuff, again, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to go through today is right here. Um, yeah, so it's right there. Okay, so and then that's back here. Okay, so what I like to do right now is I just like to get started with with the things that I do before I start a project. And the first thing I do before I start any project is ask questions. I mean, questions are the fundamental basis for what the project is going to be about. And these are the type of questions that I ask. So, what is the topic area I need to create content for? And a lot of the stuff that I create for is I create for students in school. So all this is based around, a lot of stuff that happens with my students in my school. One of the huge things that I will go over today a lot to do with accessibility. So being able to create captions and being able to export captions out and then have them baked inside the video itself. And then the other thing that I think is important is the type of software. So one of the first things I always ask myself before I do anything is what software do I need? And if I'm going to create video, undoubtedly it's going to be Premiere. If I need to mess with some audio, it's going to be Audition. Although within in Premiere, you have some very good tools for working with um, audio and with audio. So now the first thing that I do is when I've done that, so the first thing I then do is I create let me just, my machine just went off right before we came on, so I was scrambling to get everything back. But let me just open up this and I'll show you, because the first thing that I always do, and I mean always, regardless of what I'm doing, is I always create a script and I always create a storyboard based around whatever I'm going to do. So let me just see, can I find the actual storyboard here? So this is an example of the storyboard, one of the storyboards that I create. And like I say, I always do the storyboard because the storyboard is my sort of direction to where I want to go and how I want everything to look. The other thing that I do, which is extremely important to me, is I create a script. And this is an example of a script that I've created for some videos that I'm doing. I never really realized the importance of creating a script until I became a LinkedIn author. And then I knew just how important it was. But yeah, so all my videos are scripted out. Everything that I do is scripted out. I create a storyboard based around that, and then I go from there. So the next sort of thing that I do once I've done that is I come out and I create a folder structure. So because with Premiere, if you're not organized, you will end up really suffering. And suffering in terms of not having all of your materials in the same place. And what tends to happen sometimes if you don't have, well, most all the time, if you don't have them in the same place, what will happen is you will lose your material. So I always create a folder structure of what I want. And the folder structures that I always create is I have my image folder, I have a Photoshop folder, video folder, and I have usually sometimes another folder and an audio folder. And then those are the sort of like basis of what I do. And then once I do that, so let me just get up Premiere here. Once I do that, as I said, the main thing that I then do is I then tell Premiere where that folder is. So in order to do that, you have to create a project. And so when you start creating a project, I already have one done, but I should show you how I go by the process of doing it. So when you open up Premiere, if you've created projects before, all your projects names will be down here. So if I just click this one right here to open it up, and if I didn't have a project, it would be similar to this. So if I went to File, New, and Project, when I open Premiere up, I will get this window here, and then I can put in all the information that I need to, like a title. And then I browse to find out where the folder is. Now, I very seldom do anything with these paths here. I just leave them the way that they are. And then for ingest settings, the only time I will use this is maybe sometimes when I'm trying to do proxy files. And what proxy files are, they're just files that are the same file that you import into your project, but what they are is they're made to be low res, so you can work with your footage. So when Premiere opens here, you have your different windows here, and you also have your different tabs up here. And one of the things that we do with your different tabs up here is you can drag, say, any of the tabs any place that you want. So if I had this tab here, when you have a blue line, that means it's selected. So if I click, say, on one of the tabs, like here, I can drag that tab any place that I want to. So you can move them around, say, for instance. And then once you move them around, if you like your configuration, if you go up to Window, Workspaces, and then down to Save as New Workspace, you can give your new workspace a name. So the next time you come in, you will always have that workspace available to you. The next thing that I tend to do is I tend to always edit in the Edit workspace. I then import my folders, or I create the folders and import content into it. So for instance, I come down to the new item button down here at the bottom. And if I click the new item button, it gives me an opportunity to import various things. So like a sequence, I can create a sequence, but also what I can do right here is I can create a bin, and a bin is the name for a folder. So if I click that right there, it will then create a folder. And then what I do is I name all the folders, and I then import all the content into the folder. So to import the content, I just click in a blank space and I hold Command I, and that will open up the import window. Or I come down here, and what I do is I can right click and choose import also. And I can do it that way. So once I do, I just put all the content in the various folders. So then what I do in order to, so I'll show you my process of working. So the process of working is you import your footage in. Once I've got my footage in, I then come down here and I look in at the footage that I have. And then what I do is I double click on the footage. And then up here, I can play through the footage up here to see what the footage actually looks like. Now it's up in the source window. So you have your project window, your source window, your program window or panel, and then you have your timeline. So down here in the project window is where you import all your content in. You then view your content in the source window, and you can set in and out points. So for instance, that if I come to here, very seldom do you shoot a video clip. And with the video, you want everything that's there, very seldom. So you will always have in and out points in order to set your video. So the first thing that I do is I will come through and I will set an in point, an I for in. And then I go to the end of where I want it to finish, and then say O for out. And then that will set an end point. So this is the end point and this is the out point. So that is all the video that will actually be put in the timeline if I want to. Now there are certain ways of doing things. So if I wanted the whole video clip, I could just drag that down to the timeline, and then that would give me the video on the timeline. If I didn't want all of it, what I could then do is I could then bring in, well, let me just show you this one. This is a better example because this has audio and video. So if I come up here and come through here, so that's set it in there, come on over here and set it out, over out, and then drag that down. Now you notice that I've got audio, and I'm going to change sequence settings. Now you notice that you got audio and video. Over here, what you can do, if you would hold the Option key down here on the side, you notice how I can stretch that out. And anytime you come over this section over here, if you hold the Option key on the Mac, I think it's Alt on the PC, you can drag up so you can see your footage. So that is me putting all of the footage on the timeline. So I'll get rid of that. If I just wanted to put the audio on the timeline, I could just drag just the audio and drag the audio down to the timeline here. And all that works the same. If I held the Alt key down, I could drag down just to see the audio, like so. And if I only wanted the video, I could drag down and just put the video up there also. And so the reasons I would do things like that is because if I had, let's just say, some B-roll. So B-roll is other footage that you might take when you are shooting video, and it helps you explain something else. So while somebody's talking, you might have, say, a picture of whatever you're talking about, the person is talking about, and put that on top so they can actually see. Okay. So if I just get rid of that. Now, down here in the monitor, in the timeline, you have down here where you can stretch your video out. So let me just drag this back. So if I just put that down here like that. So you have down here where you can stretch your video. Let's see, can I move this out of the way? You can stretch your video back and forward. So down here, you can actually see what you're doing. So especially if you're dealing with audio, you can get in really tight, and then you can edit your audio. A lot of times when you bring your footage in, your footage will always go wherever your playhead is. So if you just come back to the right here and right click and choose Ripple Delete, it will put your footage all the way back to the beginning. Any questions yet so far? Jay, any questions?
None for now.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll continue. So what you have down here then is the next part of what I would do is, let's say for instance that I brought in my whole clip and I didn't do the in and out point in the source monitor. One of the really nice shortcuts that you can use is, if I took my mouse here and I know that this right here is where I'm going to start talking, if I press the Q key, that will ripple delete everything from the beginning. If I bring my playhead, say down here, right here, and I press the W key, that will ripple and take everything from the back. So that is also a nice way of cutting your footage. And also you don't have to ripple delete. And I'll show you the difference between the two. If I was going to go here, let's say that we started out and I had my footage here and I wanted to cut this, if I press C on the keyboard or click on the razor blade tool and click here and then go to the end and click here and click there, then I would have to hit V or get my arrow tool and delete that. I would then have to right click and then ripple delete. Whereas if I didn't do any of that before and I just took it where I want to, I just press Q. Oh, sorry, let's get rid of this bit here first. If I take my mouse the playhead where I want to delete, press Q, that will get rid of the front and ripple delete. If I go down here and press W, that will get rid of the back. So that's an easy way of actually getting your footage out. Now, another really neat thing that I tend to like to do is I would cut. So see here, I could cut here, and then I could come down and cut here and hit V to get my arrow tool back. And if I took my mouse, say, over this section and select that section, if I hit I think it's the forward arrow key, that will set an in and out point for me. So all I've done on the keyboard is hit the forward arrow, the forward slash key, and then that would give me an in and out point. So I can set an in and out point for that particular bit. Okay, cool. So the next bit that I like to talk about, so just 1 second, I have all my notes here that I want to go over. Get them organized. So the next section that I like to go over is one of the things that I like to do. So if I just get rid of all this right here, and I'm just going to right click. So to get rid of the in and out, if you just right click and say clear in and out, that will clear the in and out. So if I just drag this bit back here and here. Now, one of the things that people love to do is they love to send you comments or love to give you information, especially when you're almost done with the video and they want to change. So one of the things that I do a lot, especially if I'm working with somebody else, is I use markers. Now, markers allow me to give information to the person I'm working with or remind myself of different things. So the marker that I want to use is I want to use a marker up here. You have clip markers and then you have your other markers. I want to use just the comment markers. So if I take my playhead, say here, and I'm going to click in a blank space where nothing is selected. And if I held down the FN key on a Mac and press M, just see FN and M, just make sure I've got nothing selected. FN, M. It will then bring up the marker dialog box. So in order to set the marker, so if I just give it a name, so I'm just going to say add BRoll here of school. And down here, what I can do is say, okay, add the BRoll of the front of the school. What that will do is whoever's going to edit this, and then I would choose a color. Okay, and I'm going to leave it as a comment marker and click OK. Now down here, if I come down and I double click on that, you can see that I have that marker right there. Yeah, there we go. So nice red. So I'm going to, now one of the things that obviously if I double click on this marker again, you've seen that I've added some text there. A way of being able to see that on the timeline, if I would select the marker and I would hold the Option key down, it then splits it. And what I can then do is I can then drag that out like that. So I can actually see the message that I'm trying to deliver to the person on there. So I'll do that again. So all I've done is on the marker that I've set. So the first thing I've done is I'm just FN, function, and then M for the marker. Once the marker goes in, I've just added some data up here, name and comment, and then I've chose a color and made sure that it's a comment marker. And then what I've done is if I select the marker, hold down the, I don't know why it's not taking the color. Hold the marker, hit the Option key, and now I can flip the marker and I can then see. Okay, so I'm going to come out here, deselect everything, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing again. For some reason, I don't know why. Anyway, if you just hit M on the keyboard, it will give you a marker. And I'm just going to put in second part, BRoll, and I'm just BRoll. I'm just going to copy that command C. I'm just going to paste that in there, and I'm going to give this a blue color. Click OK. So now this one is blue. So again, I'm just going to select it, hold the Option key down, and drag it out some. And then I'm going to do back here, I'm going to do one more, and then I'll show you why. So FN and M, make sure nothing is selected. Control M, double click, and I just put just some stuff in here, and then choose, say, and then click OK. And now I'm going to just select that again, hold down the Option key, and just drag that out again. Okay, so now how this becomes extremely valuable to me is, first of all, I can see on the timeline exactly, or I can drag out and see exactly what the person wants me to do. The other thing is if I come over to the project window down here, if I click on the markers tab, what I can do, if I select one of the marker, if I choose red, usually what happens, there you go. So you can see the red. If I untick the red, here I can see all the markers that I've created. So if I wanted to add some more information to the particular markers, I could add some more information to the particular markers. So that is, to me, an amazing, you have the ability to create content with your markers. Okay, any questions yet so far? Are we all good? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, the second part of what I want to do, so I'm going to, one of the big ways that, one of the main ways that you want to create a sequence, I think, is by using the, if I come back to the, if I come back to the project panel here, a lot of times what happens is, so I'm just going to delete the sequence. A lot of times what happens is you have no idea what the size of your video is. You have no idea of what type of sequence that you want to create. So a lot of times if you come down here, if I go File, New, and Sequence, this dialog box comes up. I have no idea sometimes what the video is or the qualities of the video. An easy way of finding out what everything is in terms of making sure that you've got the right settings is that if you select your video and just drag your video down on the New Item dialog box, it will create all the right settings for you. So again, if I do that again, if I select a clip, drag it down to the New Item box here, and it will then create. And again, I'll just hold the Option key down, and on my mouse, I'm going to drag up so I can see, come down here and drag down so I can see that. And then I'm just going to take this and just spread it out some, so I've got it like that. Okay, so I'm going to, for what we're going to do, I'm just going to drag this up here, and I'm just going to drag just some back here and just drag that there. So what I want to do now is, when we're thinking about accessibility, captions is the way to go to me, go for me, and being able to put captions in. Because I think I read something where 80% of the people who view video when they're out don't view them with the audio on. So it's very important that I create content that has the captions built in. So in order to do that, I'm going to come up to the Captions tab here, Captions, and around here I just want to hit text. Now what I'm going to do, let's just shorten this so it won't be so long here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click transcribe, and I'm happy with all the settings here. I want to transcribe with the audio on the track, and English is the language. If you have another language, you can choose that. Now, one of the things I want to say that's very important here is you have the options of ticking this box right here. Now, what that will do, if you enable that, is then that will go through. And if you have two speakers speaking, that will pick up the different speakers. Okay, so that's really, really important. So if I then click transcribe, what it will do is go through and actually transcribe the content. So while we wait, won't be that long. This is why I cut the video up, so you can actually see, so it wouldn't take so long to do. So once it transcribes, what we will then be able to do is see all the text which was spoken on the video itself. Okay, perfect. So there is what we have here. So that's the text that actually came out. And if you notice, if I play
Ourselves now, I am more than what you see means that when you look at,
you notice now that when it's actually talking, it actually goes across. And I don't think that in that sense right there, she actually said anything. So if she did, it would be a speaker two down here. Now, one of the neat thing about this is you can click on the drop down button here, a speaker, and then you can actually edit the speaker's name. And then click, and then if you have another speaker, you can do the same thing there. Okay. And notice also that when you play, it will then play it
Ourselves now
along with the text and actually highlight everything. You can then go and make any changes that you want with your text. Now over here, you have a create captions box. You also have a split segment if you want to split the segment. But over here, you have a box where you can retranscribe your sequence, or you can export the transcript. Now, there's a big difference between exporting this transcript and then exporting an SRT file. Now, the SRT file is what you use to put on YouTube or Facebook, so the captions will go underneath. So this is if you're working on a project with a lot of people and you want to show them the transcript, you can. But what I'm going to do here, you can, by the way, you can also export out the text file. I'm going to click on create captions, and I am very happy with what I've got here. So I'm going to create captions from the sequence transcript. I'm going to come down here, my subtitles, it's going to select the default. I don't have any styles yet, so I'm going to leave that. I want it to be single line, and you can change these if you want to, and I'm just going to click create. And what Premiere will do is create the captions for me. So if I stretch this out some here, you will notice now that I have my captions underneath. Okay. Yep, so you have all your captions there, and it is split it out for me. Now, one of the things that you might want to do is you might want to, again, now you can export that SRT file out. So if you're going with YouTube and you want to put that on the back end of it, you can. But one of the things you might want to do is you might not like the way the actual captions look. So if I select the caption here, I can come over here and you can click and you can put the caption pretty much where you want to. But I like the default at the bottom. What you can also do down here with fill is you can change the color of your fill. So your text, okay, if you want to, make it white. What you can also do is you can add a stroke onto it. So if we put say a black stroke onto it, so it stands out a little. You can also make it bigger, fancier. And you can also, if I just increase the size a little, you can see how you can increase the size and it will auto fit whatever you want on there. So if I just put it down, something like that, about 90. I usually go between 48 and 90. Depends on who I'm creating the video for. What I can also do if I want to share a background to it, if I click background, I can have a background. What is really neat is you can also then curve I don't know whether you can see that you can curve the size of the actual background itself. So I don't want a background on there. So I'm happy with that the way it is. Now, usually what happens is that these don't take the same formatting as you've done here. So in order to make sure that you've got the same formatting, you need to create a style. So I'm going to come up here, just get this out of the way. I'm going to come up here, drop down, I'm going to create a style, and I'm just going to call this, for the sake of a better term, just call it Renaldo, and click OK. Now what I can do now is, if I come to notice what has happened, that it is taking the style of all of them. But let's just say, for instance, that if it doesn't take the style, if you come back here and click on this little up arrow, it will then allow you to put the styles for all of it. So you can have all of it right there. Now within this window, there's some other wonderful things that you can do. So let's just say that if I'm all the way up the top and I want to find, let's just say, some text, it will then jump down to whatever I type there. So you can then find whatever information you want inside of the actual video itself, which is quite neat. So what I want to do now is I'm happy with my styles. I'm happy with everything. Again, if I just select one of them, because I've got the style, now I've got my style to all of the captions. If I hold down the Command key and hit M, what that would do is bring up the export window. And what I want to do is I want to come down over to Captions, and notice right here that it has burn captions into video. So that is what's important to me, that those captions are then burned into video. So someone just said, are there any questions? It looked like someone doesn't understand what I'm doing. Are there any questions here at this point? Jay, are there any questions at this point of what I'm doing?
No, just continue. No question.
Okay. So what I'm doing down here is, this is for, you can use this for social media. You can use it for however you want to use it for with your captions. Okay, so the next thing, I'm back down here. Let's just say, yeah, so we just want to make sure that it's burnt in to the video. And you have other options here, create a sidecar, but we want it burnt in. So the next thing that I want to do now is I'm going to, sorry, I'm just trying to see what is in. Okay. I'm going to delete the sequence that I created. And if you wanted to rename the sequence, if you just clicked on it, you can then rename the sequence, but I'm going to delete that. Okay, so I'm going to then just drag this back in. And what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at some graphics. So if I come up to here, graphics, and over here, if I click on the graphics tab here, what we do have is we have the essential graphics tab. So if you click browse over here, you have a lot of different essential graphics that you can use. Now, if you're looking for graphics and you don't or can't find what you want, if you click on the Adobe Stock one, you have the option of clicking free. And then what you can do is you can go down and you can choose all the free ones that they have. So I have 3 pages here. So if I click through, all these are free. However, if I go back up and click Premium, now if you choose to buy, if you choose to use any of these, you can purchase these. So if you drag, if I would drag that on top of the clip here, what would happen is it would bring up a dialog box for Adobe Stock, and it will ask me to continue to actually purchase that one, but I don't want to purchase it, so I'm going to get rid of it. So I have my templates here. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to, with one of my templates, one of the things that you can do is if I click here and type in lower thirds and press enter, I have some lower thirds here. So what I can then do is I can then drag one of the lower thirds over to here. And now I have the lower third coming out there. And what I can then do is if I come up to edit, what I can then do is if I double click on the lower third, I can then type in what text I want to type in from there. And then just to see what it looks like if I come back at the beginning.
And I thought,
and it plays out. And any of the lower thirds that you have here, you can use those lower thirds in order to create whatever you want to create. Okay, so that's the graphics bit pretty much. They're quite simple and quite easy to use. I will say that if you search the web, there are a lot of MOGRT files, which is what these are called. And if you, yeah, like I said, if you search the web, you can find a lot of them. So if I select this right here, you can see here again, you can see how you can edit the file right here. Yeah, so that's that. Now, one of the other things I wanted to say, and I will get to it when I'm talking about exporting. If I'm happy with my video down here, you have a little box up here to the right, which is called a quick export. And that will export your video out just as it is in terms of all the settings and everything. And right here where it says adapt to bitrate, that is what I tend to export it out, because with the social media channels, all of them changing how they read video and whatever, adaptive bitrate will mean that it adapts to whatever bitrate that the company has itself. Okay, so that is that. Now, one of the things that I used to think was very difficult in terms of social media was getting out the right type of information that I wanted in terms of on the different platforms, in terms of the sizes and everything. But what I have here, if I look at this clip that I have here, and this clip is called Use. If I double click on this clip is a clip that I've taken with some students of cooking in the actual classroom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag that whole clip down here to the timeline to create a sequence, and it doesn't have any audio. But what I can then do, once it creates a sequence, I'm going to use something that's called auto reframe. So auto reframe will allow me to choose the size that I want for that particular video. So if I right click on this sequence, if I come all the way down here and choose auto reframe sequence, what that will do is bring up this dialog box here. So in this dialog box, I can give it a name. I can choose whatever sizes that I want here. Motion tracking, I leave it at the default always. If you're doing sports or whatever and it's pretty fast, you can then choose faster motion, but I tend to leave it like it is. And it's important that you don't, if you've got various adjustments and things on your timeline, that you don't nest everything. So this is not going to nest everything. This is going to leave everything like it is. So it says don't nest clips. This will replace your current motion adjustments. I don't want it to replace any motion adjustments. So I'm just going to click create. And when I do so, what you will notice is that it will create a folder up here called auto reframe. And in here, if I double click on that, you can now see that it's one-to-one. and it tries to keep all the action in the middle. It's all I've done there is when you created a sequence, right click on the sequence, come all the way down, choose auto reframe. And when you choose auto reframe, again, choose your options. You can name it, choose whatever size that you want here. You can even customize it if you want to, and then just click OK, and it will create a folder, and the folder will be named auto reframe, and then you have your auto reframe there. So your clip is exactly how you want it to be, and whatever size you want it to be. Okay. Now, one of the huge things with me in trying to make sure that I have everything the way that I want it is working with adjustment layers. So adjustment layers will help me to colorize the footage. But I use adjustment layers for two reasons. I use them to help me with the white balance, but I also use them to make sure that I can color the footage the way I want it so it looks good. So if I come up here, if I just chose one piece of footage here, let's see the footage that I want. Okay, so this is of my school here. So I'm just going to remember how to set it in and out. You just come, take your playhead where you want it and set an I for in. And then come all the way to the end where you want it to stop and push O for out. So I'm just going to drag this down to the timeline like this, or I can drag it to the create new item, and I can assure again that it's going to create the sequence in the correct way. So if I just drag this up so we can see it, make this a little bigger. Now, this is footage that actually looks quite washed out. So the first thing I need to do is deal with the white balance because it's not the exact color that it was shot. One of the things that I constantly do when I'm getting ready to shoot video, I will put a white piece of paper or something, or you can use a color card, or you can use one of the gray cards that you have. But I tend to put a white piece of paper, and then I white balance it off that piece of paper. Obviously here I don't have that piece of paper. So what I'm going to do with the footage there is I'm going to come down to the new item. I'm going to click on adjustment layer. It will create a layer the same size as your project. Click OK, and you can double click on it and rename it. I'm going to drag that on top like that. So now I've got an adjustment layer on there. So the first thing that I want to do when I've got my adjustment layer is I want to make sure that I select the adjustment layer, not the clip. So if I click the adjustment layer, I'm going to go to my color tab up here. And on the color tab, I'm going to click the white balance selector here, and I'm going to just take something that's white. Sometimes it takes a minute. Okay, you can see how it changes it subtly. But it, oh, that's a graphic. Let's get rid of that. Sorry. I got that selected. White balance, sample white, and it then highlights a little bit. So it then brings the actual color out. So I'm happy with that. Now, usually what happens is that a lot of people add in another adjustment layer. They white balance on one and then add another. I don't like to do that. So to each his own. So I'm going to use this adjustment layer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add what's called a LUTs, which is a lookup table. And you can find these at filmicpro.com. And Filmic Pro, if you go to the bottom of the page, Filmic Pro has some LUTs that are free. And I sort of like the way they look. So these are the Filmic Pro LUTs here. So I'm going to choose this one. And then that will add and make it slightly darker. Now, what you can do now is I like to just exposure because it was shot during the course of the day. I'm going to add a little contrast. The highlights, I am going to add just a tad. My shadows, I'm going to drop my shadows down. My whites, I'm going to up my whites a little because I want to blow the skies out. And then the black down here, what I can do is drag the black down. And so just by doing that, if I just turn off the adjustment layer, you can see the hues different. that it is when you're working with it. And one of the other things you can, I also like to come down and desaturate it a little. One of the other things that I like is if I come down to the that's secondaries, and down to denoise, making sure that you have the adjustment layer selected, I'm going to drag that across a little. And that tends to help make the actual footage better. 1 second, guys. My machine is about to die on me. 1 second, please.
Okay, don't forget to register. Registration link is in the event details.
Okay, let me just plug this up. And okay. Yeah, so I'd like to come down and do some denoising. Now, the other thing that you can do when you start out is you can use the auto. So if you click auto, it will then do what it thinks is best. But I'm going to Command Z and undo that. So that's how I tend to color grade my footage. The other thing that I do, if I have, say, another piece of footage, so if I come back here and I have another piece of footage, like for instance, just see here, I am going to, and this is when I was talking about if you want to use BRoll. So let's say, for instance, that if we have somebody speaking about the actual footage itself, about the school itself, we could be talking about the food place. So I could come over here, and when this footage gets to here, set I for in, play it across some. So this is the food technology building. And I'm going to hit O for out, stop it. And I'm just going to drag just the video down here. I'm going to take the adjustment layer and put it up top. And now you can see now that this is really blown out. It's too much. So that doesn't work with that. So what I tend to do is, if I'm going to do that, I tend to try to adjust it to usually the second layer of what I'm doing. But because it doesn't show the bottom layer and I'm talking, what I can do is I can come here. If I press C, I can cut it there. V, I'm going to delete that bit. And I only want, let's say, from there, I only want that bit right there to be shown. So what I can do is drag in another adjustment layer over here, and then this adjustment layer will only work for this part of the footage here. And so what I can then do, if I held down the Option key, I can duplicate this adjustment layer and put this back here. So when I come back to my second clip, it's back the way that I color corrected before. But back here, I can then select this, go to the color tab, and then I can again add a LUT. I can then maybe drop put the exposure up some, and drop the shadows, the whites. And again, what I would do is I would select this, and I would come to the white balance selector, and I would choose the white here. Okay, just try that again and see what it. Yeah, choose the white there. Okay, so what I've have here so far is I've just got something like this. And then it comes back to that. So that's what I do in terms of a color correction. Now, a lot of times what people will want to do is they might want, say, a snapshot. Like I was shooting a wedding the other day, and what she wanted was she wanted the video, but then she wanted a still from her just standing. So what you can do is whatever frame that you're on here, if I just went up here to the export frame, I can click this little button right here and it will export the frame out. If I don't see that button, if you come down here and click here, you then have the button editor. So again, all I did was I just went to the bottom, right to the right here, click the button editor, and then you can just drag that down into your layout. So all I do is if I click export frame, that will then export a frame out, and you can actually have it imported back into your project. So if I just call this school, okay, you can browse where you want to save it. So I like to save images in the images folder, videos in the video folder. So if I choose images, go to school, okay, save it. If I go back to my editing tab, what I should have is my school footage down there. And now if I drag that over, I've got my still right here. Okay, so that is if you want to get a still from the frames. And if you shoot weddings or anything like that, being able to use that function will help you a lot because you can get a lot of the stills. I have a 5D Mark IV, and I get a lot of my stills from that, a lot of them from that. Okay, the next thing I just want to talk about now is exporting my footage out. So once I have something that I'm happy with. So if I come back here, now this is the playhead is right here. Sometimes what I do is I have, although it's one sequence, I might have different sections of something on the same sequence. So you need to make sure that your this bar right here is just what you want to export out. And then you can go up to File and you can come down to Export Media. But I like to just make sure that the blue area is selected, hold down the Command key and hit M. And then that will bring up the File Export dialog box. Now in here, let's just say that I want to export this out. I, again, like the adaptive bitrate to put it out because I don't know how the social media channels are going to change their bitrate. So I just like to have it like that. The other thing that I like to do is make sure that I have both of these boxes ticked. So export video and export audio. If I only wanted the audio, I would untick that and then I could set it to MP3. So you have a selection of things that you can tick down here that you can select down there. And if I have made some changes to, let's just say, for instance, that you have all of these tabs. If I go maximum render quality, what I can then do, if I've saved it, is I can create my own preset. Okay, so I can just click on the side right here, create my own preset, and then when I get ready to export it out, it will be in that drop-down menu that I selected before. So on down here, so what I've got is I've got all the summary of what's happening, and then I've got some tabs down here. So this is the effect tab if you want to put on a LUT or whatever you want to do. But I usually just make sure that I have my content on the adjustment layer. So whatever I want to do in terms of the LUT. And then you have other image overlay that if you want to put an overlay on top of your image, like a watermark or something, you can. You can put a time code overlay and so on and so on. One of the important ones that I like in here is the Publish tab. So in here, instead of trying to publish and then re-export it or put it up into YouTube or any other social media, you can actually, if I select, for instance, YouTube here and come down my information, I can put my information in there. And then what I can then do is with all my data in there, I can then come up and I can export my video and it will export it to my social media channel. And so I don't have to worry about me having to export the video out, then take the video and then upload it to YouTube. It will do it right there for me. So again, you have all these different settings right here that you can do that. You also have, again, your captions over here. We don't have any captions in this video because there's no audio on here. You have your video settings, so you can match the settings. If you don't like the settings that you have, you can untick that and then set in the own settings that you have, or whatever changes you may want to make. But what I do for that is I use audio auto reframe. So I create the sequence like I like it, and then I will auto reframe it and then put that up to Instagram, put it up to YouTube, or whatever else I want to put it up to. Okay, and so one of the other things that you can do, so this will then export, and obviously you need to tell it where you want to save it at. So one of the other things that I love is that sometimes when I have a lot of videos to create, what I will do is queue them up. So when you queue them up, what that will do is it will open up Adobe Media Encoder. So with Media Encoder, again, one of the beautiful things about Media Encoder is that I can export it out, but I can duplicate the clip and then have it for different formats. So let's just let Media Encoder load up here. Come on, baby. So when it does load up, it will load up with the clip already in there for you. So again, if you double click on custom, you can go back and you can make changes here, what you want. But what you can also do, if I right click on here and duplicate, I can now then come to the side here and I can choose a different format that I want. Say I needed the audio, maybe if I got audio, or I could click the custom here, and then I could come up to H.264, and I could say maybe I wanted something with ProRes or something like that, or whatever you want. So you can just make whatever choices that you've got there. And then when you've done that, you just click OK. And then in order to get it out, but also down here at the bottom, what you've got is you can, I think if I'm right, you can take some of these. So like, let's just say H.264. If I drag that up here, no, it doesn't work. Okay, so yeah, so you got down there that you can choose some of the different selections that you want. And then all you do is hit this little green button and it will export them out. So you can have watch folders. Now, watch folders are folders that when you put the media in there, I think it exports all the media out at one time. So I usually set it up for at night. So I have all my stuff at night and then go and then export it out like that. Okay, so that's what I do in terms of exporting my media out. The other thing that I use is I use Adobe Audition. So I'm not a big audio guy, but what I am is I like to sort of make sure that my audio is sort of tight. So one of the things that I use a lot of content for, so let's just create a little sequence here. So I'm going to let's drag this footage in first. Let's get rid of that. And let's go to video. Let's drag this in here. Change sequence settings. And then what I'm going to do is on the audio, I'm going to drag this underneath here. So this will be my audio.
And I thought, wow.
And it will play like that. And again, I can come over, drag that down so I can see it like so. Now, one of the things I can do, I can right click on this clip and I can say edit in Audition. And what that will do is that will open up Adobe Audition. And I use very few things in Audition, but the things that I use them for are really specific, like maybe getting rid of hiss, or maybe even doing a remix, which I'll show you in a moment. So, okay, so I've got this here. So what I tend to do when I come in here is obviously I play it a little. I then try to find a piece of the clip and select it, and I go to Effect, and I come down to Noise Reduction, Capture Noise Print. And then what I do is select all of it and then come up to Effects, Noise Reduction Process. And so I can play it. I can then go through and add, with some of the threshold and everything, I can set points on here. I can drag points down. What I can also do is I can come in here and again and play where I'm going. I can add smoothness. So there's a lot of things that you can do in here. And whatever you've done, if you've got other music that you know is very similar, is that again, you can create a preset from here. So I'm just going to close this down. The other thing that you can do within within Audition that I really, really love is you can make your track longer. So I know that back in Premiere, back here, if I had a sequence, and I'm just going to select this, and I'm just going to hold on to Option. Select this right here. Let's get this out of the way. Select this right here, and I'm just going to hold on the Option key, and I'm just going to duplicate this. Duplicate it again. And if I had a sequence, and my sequence, the music wasn't long enough for my sequence, so what I could do is I could right click on this again, and I could open it up in Adobe Audition. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remix the audio and make the audio actually longer. And it does a fantastic job, actually. So what I need to do is I need to right click on the click and say insert into multi-track. So new multi-track session. And I'm just going to say song, browse. And I'm going to save it. Click here and come up here and save it inside of my audio. Save it here and click OK. And now that I have the function here, I can come down to on the right and say enable remix. And when it does so, what I can then do once it has done it, I can then say instead of 3 minutes, I can say I want my track to be 5 minutes. And then what it will do is that it will actually make the track 5 minutes. So that is an amazing thing that they do. And what it does, it actually works really, really well. And then what I would need to do is just come down to multi-track or multi-track session in the new file, or what I can do is file, and I can come down to export. Multi-track mix down, and I'm going to choose entire session, browse, back here, audio, and I'm just going to give this a name, use me, and I'm just going to export it out, say okay. Now if I come back to Premiere, if I close this down, I close this down, I'm going to delete this one. If I come back to Premiere and I double click over here and I come to my audio, I should have one that says use me. And if I drag this down here, you can see that it is now much longer. So Adobe's done an incredible job with the remix function. So that's pretty much how I use Audition. So that's pretty much how I use Audition. The things that I would say that I use a lot also is if you come to the Effects tab over here, I use quite a bit of transitions. So video transitions, so dissolve. So I use a lot of cross dissolves in the middle of my clips. I do that. So you have a lot of dissolves here that I use. The other thing that I think that I wanted to go over, if I come over here and select this, if I come up to the sound panel, so if I come over, let's go, do I have the sound? So if I come to the Essential Sounds panel, one of the things that I do for all of my footage when I'm in here is I will come through and identify what it is that it actually is. So for instance, if I was to bring in the swoosh sound right here, put that right there. So what I would now do is I would select this here, and I would say that that is dialogue. And then in here, I can go through and I can say how loud that I want it. I can add dynamics. I can do something with the EQ. I can put its background voice. I can enhance the speech and so on and so on. If I selected this little bit right here, what I can then do is say that is special effects. So I can then edit my special effects. If I come down to my music and select it, I can say that is going to be my music. And so in terms of things like loudness, I can have it. In terms of things like ducking, I can put on ducking. And so I can deal with the level. So when the actual plays, I can duck the music down. So let's put it like there. Let's just see what it sounds like.
There is more to me than meets face value. I think it's very important that everybody
notice now how it actually ducks the audio down. So that's how I use the sound panel. And that's about it, guys. That is my intro into Premiere Pro. So Jay, are you there?
Hello? Yes. Okay. We have questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share my caption style to other people in my team?
That's a very good question. And I have no idea, if I'm honest with you. I have no idea. I think if you set it as a preset and then share the preset that you've done. So I think if you then find the preset folder, and then I think you can share it that way. So if you find the preset folder inside of, so I think if you go to Premiere and right click on it and then show package contents and find the preset folder, you can find it. And then I think you can share it with your team.
Okay, so
same as with the any LUTs that you have. If you find the LUTs and you put them in, you can then share your LUT package with anybody else also.
all right. So if we delete any part of the sequence, will it also adjust the caption as well?
Yes, because if you delete any part of the sequence, you obviously need to delete the captions also that was associated with the sequence. Otherwise, those will still come up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If you have questions, you can post it in our comment section, and let's have a quick break. I'll be playing a video, and when we come back, we'll answer to your questions. Okay? Okay.
Can I just share my screen again? So can I just show exactly what I was talking about to the user just now? Can you just yeah? So if you want to see where your presets and everything are, if you go to Premiere and double click on the folder itself, and then if you see the icon, if you right click and choose Show Package Contents, and then go into Contents, what you will have is you will have all of your, so let's say for instance, like your plugins, or your plugins here. You also have, he was like the presets. You have all your presets here, so your different ones. But you also have, in terms of the LUTs, you also have your Lumetri LUTs. So you have all your lookup tables, your LUTs, and whatever else. You can put them in whatever section that you want to. Say, for instance, the ones that I found with Filmic Pro is I found them and I just dragged them inside of this folder right here. And what I was talking about with Filmic Pro, if you go to Filmic Pro, think it's Filmic Pro. If you go to here, in terms of those LUTs, lookup tables, if you come all the way, if you come all the way down to the bottom of the page, what you will see is you will see down here it says LUTs. If you click on LUTs right here, it's taking this time. But if you click on LUTs right there, you can download the pack, and then you would just put them in. I put mine in the technical section inside of that folder. And then whenever you get ready to open up Premiere, they will be in the drop-down menu when you go to the color tab. Okay, I don't know. It's my internet. Are you still there? Yeah, my internet is acting stupid.
Yeah.
So if you go download Filmic LUTs pack, it will then take you here, and then you can download the pack. So you can download the pack. And then once you've downloaded the pack, again, if you just come back into here and go to Applications, and then go to Premiere Pro, and then right click and show Content Package, come into Contents. And then if you come on down to Lumetri and look up tables, and then I stuck mine in the technical section. Okay, so that's what I've done with mine. Yeah, so that's what I've done with mine. And see, there's Premiere still here. Yeah, and then within Premiere, when you go to your color tab here, what they will be is when you, let's just say if I had, just do this. Sorry, I'm just love my, so when you have over here and you select, say, an adjustment layer, you go to your color tab, what happens is you have them in your drop-down menu here. So you notice that I've got the Filmic Pros right there. So that's what that does.
What is your advice to those people who are starting out, to all creatives out there? Any advice?
Yes, I would say that if you're looking to start with Premiere, or if you're looking to do anything within e-learning, the first thing you want to do is you don't want to compare yourself to anybody else. That's the number one thing. Everybody's journey is different. So the first thing I would do if I were you is I would find me some videos on YouTube. You can look at my videos, or find some videos from wherever else, and then look at the beginning process. Adobe has a wonderful site that has a lot of tutorials on it, a lot of tutorials. So you just go and you start building up. And I think the other thing is you have those 4 windows. You need to know what each one of those windows do, because Premiere has a working a way that you work. You first import your footage in, you then set your in and out points. You then drag your content to the timeline, and whatever's in the timeline shows in the program window. And then you then go from there. But do something. And I would also say is to make sure you have a project to complete. Make sure you have something to do, because just trying to learn it on its own is very difficult. But if you've got something that you need to complete, and so like now, this afternoon, what I'll do is I'm going out to film some ducks. And I'm just filming ducks because it will help me get some footage, and then I can practice setting the different stops on my lens. I can practice my shooting, and then I can bring it back, and then I can edit it, and I can try some different things, So it's always, and what I've also found is that regardless of what you're doing in your life, if you can spend at least 10 minutes a day thinking about Premiere and thinking about the workflow, it helps, because anything that you don't do, you lose, you forget. And Premiere is the kind of program that when you start out, you need to actually know how to use it.
Okay. Question from James. Can we use our 1080p USB webcam to capture audio and video?
It doesn't, if you can, it's not great. You can use your webcam to capture audio and video, but I don't think that the output from that will be very good. So I think technology has come on a little bit now that way you can do that. The other thing you might want to do is get a separate audio recorder and then try to maybe record the recorder with a separate audio recorder. But I will say, James, that I don't,
Okay.
if I'm ever recording anything, James, I always record things 2 times at the same time. I have an external recorder, and I might say record something with my lapel mic, because undoubtedly something might go wrong. And I've just got through doing some weddings, and if you don't have your audio right, it's crazy. So you need to make sure that you've got both. And you have to understand also that you're messing with people's time. So it is very important that you make sure that you test your equipment as you go along. Test, 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 test. Always test, and just to make sure that everything's working. But I would say record twice or record 2 times, when you're recording. Can I just
Okay.
say one? Can I just say one thing though? And I say this in all seriousness. When you're starting with Premiere, Premiere can be a little beast to start with. But once you get the hang of the Adobe products, all of them pretty much work just alike. So once you get used to the interface, once you've done one, you pretty much can work with the other. Um, but yeah, but it's I love this program.
Okay. Yeah, so practice makes perfect.
Well, I'm not sure it makes perfect, but it helps you get along to where you need to get along to. Okay. And because one of the things that is happening, if you work with Adobe, is that they're constantly trying to make the software better. And I think with the next versions on, the next version will look very similar to Adobe Rush. You can go and try the beta out now, so it will be different. So it will be another sort of way of then trying to learn some of the old things and just where things are. But yeah, but just give it a shot. And Adobe has 30-day, 30-day. You can download a version for 30 days. Give it a shot.
Okay, question from
Mm,
Long. How does it compare to other video programs? Have you used others before?
Yeah, I've used Final Cut before, but when they switched to 10, I just gave up. To be honest with you, I like the timeline metaphor. I like things on the timeline, and you can put your B-roll up top. And I'm quite I just couldn't get my head around the new Final Cut. I much prefer the old Final Cut, which was similar to Premiere Pro. I have tried DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is fantastic for coloring, but again, regardless of what I use, I always find myself coming back to Premiere. Um, Always. And I think it's what you find yourself, it's how you find yourself and where you find yourself at. If there's one thing, was that Veronica who just said that? Veronica, thank you. I think it was Veronica. One thing I will say to you, if I've shown you anything today that you need to start using, is the captioning feature for accessibility. Start using that to include everybody, so everybody has an opportunity to view your content. I use it because I'm creating content now for my students in school, and I know that at some point in time there will be noise around, or if they want to do some homework on the bus or whatever and don't want to have the audio out or forgotten the headphones, by just having the captioning feature, they can actually read what they need to do also. So the captioning feature is fantastic.
Okay, once more, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be with you today, tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope it was worthwhile for somebody.
Yes, and we hope to see you once more in the maybe advanced or intermediate session with us. If, of course, we'll schedule it.
Okay, James, you're more than welcome, man. James, you are more than welcome.
Okay, thank you everyone
Thank you.
for joining, and thank you
Thank you, guys.
Renaldo for joining,
Absolutely.
and
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful afternoon.
I will do. Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay, stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody. Please stay safe. Bye bye.